Everyone, Christian here, and I want to do a little vlog talking about landscaping in Florida during the 20th century. So back in, say, the 50s through the 80s, when Florida experienced a huge boom in population and a lot of explosive growth, kind of like its first, or I should say its second boom in population, the first being in the early 20th century. A lot of plants were brought in, obviously, for landscaping. People wanted tropical or subtropical plants for their houses and for parks. And so Venice was no exception, and back in around this time in the 50s and 60s, this area was developed, and you can kind of tell when an area was built up by, a lot of times, by the palms that were planted in the area. So here we have what appears to be Phoenix canariensis, the Canary Island date, and you can see here they're kind of planted in this triangle here. It's sort of like a little mini park over across the street from a larger park over here. So a lot of this has been kept pretty much the same since probably the 70s. And you can see there's also Australian pine right here. It's invasive, class 2 invasive, and it might be class 1, I don't even know. You know, the Canary Island dates kind of really stand out as like the two exotic plants that are growing here. And the problem with these canaries is that if you look at I don't know how well the video shows this, but the trunks are just not that large. I mean, a Canary Island date, I should only be able to hug half the trunk, and you can see my hand already goes a portion across. And a lot of times the way you can tell a true canary date is that it's going to have these long hatches from the old petiole bases, but they're going to be like that wide. So if you look up here, see, I don't know if that's going to show in the glare, but there's a much wider cut there. It's probably because it's a little bit healthier, but it still isn't the size of the palm that really is that true date. So these are probably almost all hybrids with either a true date, a sylvestris, or maybe it could be 3 varieties or 3 species. We can see right there, sylvestris was planted. That might have been a replant sometime in the 80s or 90s, and nothing here really shows that any of these are pure. These are probably, you know, brought out of a nursery. They're probably collected from, like, for example, you would never want to collect this seed. It's pretty much going to be not pure and just worthless hybrid that's going to turn into some spiny monster. I mean, unless you have no other option, you know, it's not really going to be the best. You can see that these are you can see that yellow there, that magnesium deficiency is going to really, and potassium, it has both spotting and yellowing. It's just going to be, you know, it looks unhealthy. They look a little bit sickly. Really wasn't, they may have been well taken care of. In fact, it looks like they were irrigated at some point, because their roots are kind of brought up, and that's usually a sign that they're getting watered, and they're kind of moving away from the source of the water, just to save the trunk from rotting too much. But you know, if I go to this one over here, it's not a whole lot different. You can see the hatching a little bit better up top. It looks healthy, but down here it just looks so gnarly. And these palms are known for having fat, straight trunks and really big crowns of leaves, and none of these exhibit any of those characteristics. Not only to mention the nutrient deficiencies in them. So, and Australian pine was brought in here to kind of, like, you know, to create shade, forest areas that weren't forested, because it grows fast and it moves fast. And unfortunately for a lot of areas where it was planted in Florida, it's just become a big nuisance. For example, in Cape Coral, where I live, there's a forest that's basically impenetrable and almost impossible to clear, because they literally grow up right next to each other, to the point where you can't even walk through it. So over here you can see there's some native oaks here, some scrub oaks, no big live oaks around, which really are the best, and, you know, to have it for shade. But there's also a few tababuyas. There's a couple nice old pines. There's a nice fat pine there. But really what I wanted to focus on was the actual phoenix that are growing here. You know, different varieties of hybrids, and a lot of times landscapers would just collect. They didn't know that phoenix would hybridize with each other, so they would collect seed off a palm like this and grow it up and hope for the best. Sometimes they would get these beautiful hybrids, like with pygmy dates. So you'd have Robolini cross with Canariensis. It has this fat trunk clumping phoenix, like a really robust looking pygmy date. And sometimes you just get, most of the time you get this complete weird, you know, hybridized kind of, I don't want to call it garbage, but just it just wasn't very pretty, and it had no landscape value. So, but it was planted because it was in demand, and a lot of times you can find that. So if you're buying palms that have a lot of variety in shape, such as Phoenix, and they have the chance to be hybridized, really make sure that you're getting that plant from a you know, reliable nursery or seed source, and you know, check up on, make sure that you aren't just getting it from a guy that collected it off a tree. I mean, if you don't mind getting a hybrid, that's fine, but if you want a pure Canariensis, I'm gonna drive around and look for a real nice pure one, and that way, you know, you don't get this kind of dainty looking, it looks almost like a sable palmetto trunk with pinnate leaves, and you know, they don't look that bad, but they could look a lot better, and the city has the money to make it look better. So this is actually called Venice Park, just in case anyone wanted to know. But this area also looks a little, feels devoid, and I don't know if that was meant intentionally, but it's just grass, picnic table, and they really could, I mean, there's so many opportunities to plant palms here, or other plants to really spruce it up. So over there, you know, I like the fact that this area was kind of kept natural, and for the most, besides the Australian pine, and there's mostly just palmettos, old pines, and they're old slash pines, and some oaks with, you know, Spanish moss isn't native here, but you know, it's kind of hard to get rid of, so it wasn't like they planted it here. But yeah, that's about it. I just want to show you guys, you know, what to find, like, you know, areas that may have been planted, you know, 30, 40, 50 years ago, how to kind of find out where those places are, you know, how to determine how old a park or a house is by the plants that are growing on it. So hope you found this vlog either informational or interesting. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, and there'll be many more videos like this. And you guys have any questions about what other palms or plants that were normally grown in Florida during the 20th century, during the booms, go ahead and leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.